So, welcome to the last talk. We're going to be talking about joints and joint health and bruises and soft tissue injuries this evening. So, let's talk about your joints. Remember, humans are Paleolithic in our physiology. We haven't changed much in the last 10,000 years. So, we are still designed as a successful model to live in that kind of environment, and we don't have our food delivered to us in a takeaway. We are supposed to run and find it, and walk and find it, and do a lot more exercise than is human at the moment, because this, with Netflix and lockdown last year, didn't help, and lockdown this year didn't help at all. So people have become more couch potato-y than ever before, and the closing of the gyms, a lot of people struggle to go back to their exercise regimes. And why I talk about that most especially is this is not a healthy way to keep your joints and your bones healthy. Being overweight puts special strain on the joints of your body, specifically your knees, your hips, your ankles, and your feet. And when you are carrying weight in the front, it puts strain on your spine. And when you are carrying weight in the front and you lean forward a lot, it puts strain on your neck and your shoulders as well. So all of that gets affected very negatively when we gain weight and we don't exercise. And the more weight you gain, the harder it is to start an exercise regime. It's uncomfortable to walk when you're carrying 50 kilos. And skinny people don't understand. And that's fine. If you put a backpack of 50 kilos onto someone and said, go for a 2K walk, it starts to get a bit difficult by the end of 500 meters. So maintaining your body is the most important thing when it comes to healthy joints and bones. You need to start with a healthy model and maintain it as long as possible. And if you have joint problems, you need to maintain what you've got and fix the problems that could be making those issues worse. So if you have knee issues and you are overweight, it's now a matter of urgency, because the longer you put heavy weight on those knees, the more the tissue is going to break down. And unfortunately, cartilage isn't something that can repair itself. Cartilage is inside your joints, you have plastic-like substance called cartilage, and you have bone, and you have this liquidy, gooey stuff in a capsule. And that's a sort of a normal joint structure. Now, the problem is that cartilage can crack and tear and wear, and it starts to malform. And the bone, when you have arthritis, starts to malform, and the space between the bone ends and the cartilage plates starts to decrease, and you end up with more and more inflammation and more unhappiness and more pain, stiffness, and loss of function. So the most important thing about joints is that you need to maintain what you've got, and if there's a reason why the tissue is getting damaged, try and remove that reason. Another reason why people end up with joint issues is repetitive stress injuries. So it might be that you have set up your desk and you are sitting incorrectly. You're leaning too far forward and you're putting strain on your back and your shoulders. Very often people get elbow issues on the right-hand side, and there's a muscle just below where the bend of your arm is, where your elbow bend on the inside. There's a sort of a lumpy, and in men who are very muscular, and it's a sort of an oyster-shaped muscle just on the outside of that slit. It's called your brachioradialis. It's the one that moves your index finger. So on a mouse, and you get a mouse injury. There is a thing called a mouse injury, and it starts a trigger point problem, and that muscle gets strained and annoyed, and you end up with tendinitis going down into your wrist and hurting your hand. The elbow gets involved and you end up with tennis elbow. It tracks its way up your arm and it ends up in your shoulder, and you end up with frozen shoulder. So that song about the knee joint being connected to the hip joint, etc., it's very true. All of these systems are interconnected, and you won't have just one problem. When something starts and it isn't dealt with appropriately, it will lead to another one and another one. So what you need to do in your work environment, because we sit and do the same thing very often for hours and hours at a time, usually at a computer. We spoke about eye strain a few weeks ago. But when you are working with a mouse, please make sure that it is not too far away from you, that you are not twisting your body in an uncomfortable movement, repeated twistings and movements, and overextending your shoulder to use your mouse. Make sure your work environment is not going to make you sick, because you want to be healthy and comfortable when you retire from the work. You need to get up from your desk regularly and move around, because what happens is the tissues start to lose blood flow. They start to stiffen and chemicals start to build up in the tissue from normal use. So you need to get up and stretch. Stretch the muscles, you squeeze the muscles in an extension, and you remove some of the blood flow. And then when you relax again, the blood flows back into the tissue. And then it removes a lot of the built up fatigue and stress chemicals that build up in those muscles. So you need to stretch a lot. And that's very important. Exercise, Homer is an example of a disaster human being. He's never going to be healthy, and he's never going to be comfortable in old age. Just a couch potato, nasty. Exercise is important, but stretching is more important. The more you stretch, the more blood flow and healing happens in your joints just from everyday wear and tear. Stretching is very important. It doesn't have to be serious exercise like this. You don't have to end up on a TikTok video or an Instagram or something like that. It just has to be normal, healthy movement right through all the ages of your life. So you need to be a healthy, mobile human being from when you're small. So if you have children and they've ended up turning into couch potatoes at 7, 8, 9, 10, you need to help them by facilitating their movement outdoors and in an exercise program. Make it part of your daily lives as a family and as an individual. You need to make sure that you are the healthiest version that you can be of yourself, for yourself, because you are not going to be anyone's best friend and helper if you are the person who is miserable and tight and stiff and in pain later in life. So get outside and get moving. And it doesn't have to be strenuous, fancy exercise in a gym environment. You don't have to do the Ironman. You just have to get moving. You have to walk. You need to use your bones, and you need to land on your bones. Swimming is fantastic. It's a lovely stretching exercise. It's really good at building muscles and flexibility and cardio, etc. But it doesn't land on your feet. You don't land on your joints. So you need to do a significant amount of walking as well to help your body maintain the bone structure that you've got. Because if you don't maintain more and you don't build healthy bones as you grow, you're not going to have healthy bones when you're old. There is a cutoff time for laying down new bone material. Then what you put in is what you get. And bones and healthy joint tissue is made of minerals. It needs protein and it needs minerals to be maintained. So if there aren't minerals in your food, you are not going to build what you need, and you won't be able to repair any minor damage. By minor damage, I mean falling down a flight of stairs, or stepping off a step wrong, or bumping into a desk at work, or lifting a box in the wrong way and straining something. All of that repair from normal wear and tear of human muscle, you need the right foods for that. You need elastic stuff. So you need vitamin C. You need to have the minerals and to build calcium in your bones. So you need a healthy diet. Eating rubbish is not a way to have a healthy musculoskeletal system. I know some people view salad with great distaste. Cooked veg works fine too, but vitamin C really should come from fresh stuff. So there was a meme on social media recently about how anyone's holding a salad and they all start laughing because clearly salads are funny. I went and looked on the internet actually, and I went to look for pictures of people eating salad, and they've all got this manic smiley face. You should go and find it. It's quite funny. But it does. It makes you feel clean and healthy and good if you have regular use and regular intake of healthy, clean vegetables. And it's most important for your joint repair system. So these guys ate a lot of green stuff because it's always available. Remember, their diet was based on what they could find. So they ate long grain animals, large animals, infrequently. They ate small grain animals like birds, squirrels, mice, rabbits, etc. More frequently, they're easier to catch. And they ate large amounts of vegetable matter because it's always there. And the non-seasonal veg, they eat even more of that. So our bodies are used to and require large amounts of green stuff. And that's how your diet should be looked at. What did they eat? We should be eating the same. So another problem with a junk food filled diet is that sugar and refined carbohydrates specifically increase your body's ability to make inflammation, the angry side of inflammation. Something is wrong. Wee wah, wee wah, wee wah. all the first responders go rushing to a problem, and that response is overdone. So using napalm to kill an ant's nest, massive response, because there's lots of sugar in your system, your body over responds to things. So when you bump yourself, it hurts more than it should. And when you sprain your ankle, it lasts a long time. Instead of healing within a few weeks, it takes ages, and you've got this lingering leftover nonsense. The more sugar in your diet, the more likely you are to heal slowly and incompletely. Joints need hydration. It is one of those tissues you need to hydrate your soft tissues around your joints, and you need to hydrate your joint tissues. So do not dehydrate. If you have a joint problem, please make sure that you drink enough fluid. And by that, I don't mean coffee and things with caffeine that come with bright colored tins. I mean healthy, clean water as much as possible. Then a very important part of our diets that is neglected is omega-3s. South Africans, as a rule, don't eat oily fish as regularly as Europeans. For one, salmon is much more expensive, and tuna is an expensive part of any diet if it's eaten fresh. We need omega-3. It's an important part in maintaining the healthy, lubricated systems in your joints. Another reason why it's very important to have omega-3 is that it is the anti-inflammatory omega. Omega-6, which comes in our diets in large quantities in seed oils like sunflower oil, those omega-6 oils are what cause your body to be able to produce inflammation. Now, we need that. We need to get inflamed. So if I scratch my arm, I'm going to get a red line. And that's normal. There was a problem. First responders need to go to the area of pain. So you bump yourself or you sprain an ankle and it swells up, red, hot, painful, strained. That is normal. It's a good idea. But when the problem goes away, the swelling needs to go away. The pain that says don't move this also needs to go away. And the message that comes from omega-3. And if you don't have enough in your diet, you're going to have a problem. And inflammation will last longer and longer. So anyone with joint problems, please make sure that there is omega-3 in your diet. If there isn't enough in your diet, by that I mean you need fish, oily fish 3 or 4 times a week, please supplement. It's one of the few things that I recommend to absolutely everybody. The only people who can't have salmon oil are those allergic to fish and people on a blood thinner. That's something you need to pay careful attention to. Blood thinner patients are a special group of humans and must be very careful. Then the remedies for joint issues. The most important and the most famous, the one that everybody knows, is Arnica. Arnica D6 is our product and it's been around since 1967. Arnica montana is it's a remedy specifically for bruising. Bruising in the tissues after a fall, after any form of bump. Now, what happens with the bruise is the tiny little capillaries in your tissue, which supply oxygen. Blood brings the oxygen to your tissues and it removes all sorts of nasties. The blood vessels that bring that oxygen are very, very small. They're very narrow and they're made of a single layer of epithelial cells. They look for all the world like flat little starfish and they interconnect like this. And when you hit yourself, you burst those little connections and they tear open. And blood leaks out of the capillaries into the tissue. Now, we're not made of hollow spaces. There's no space for blood outside of the blood vessels. It's not supposed to be there. So being outside of the blood vessel, because there's pressure coming from the heart, the blood's not going to stop moving. And if there's an open area, it's going to ooze into the tissue. And unfortunately, all the nerves in there get very annoyed. And that's where the pain comes from, because there's extra fluid in an area that shouldn't have extra fluid. And the tissue is now damaged. So what Arnica does is it encourages those little gaps to seal quickly, and you stop the bruise from getting bad, and you help the body too, because a healthy blood vessel can reabsorb stuff. So that's what it does. It helps the bruise not get as bad as it would, and helps the body to break down old bruises that have happened within a couple of days. So Arnica is for all those cases where bruising is in the tissues and as soon as it happens, you start taking arnica, because the faster you seal those little blood vessels, the less fluid leaks out and the worse a bruise is going to be. So when people are doing heavy bodybuilding, to get that massive muscle growth, you actually do tearing within the muscle tissue and there's bruising. So one of the reasons I recommend arnica frequently is to people who are doing heavy bodybuilding and people who are building muscle mass by doing heavy weights. And after a heavy session, you take some arnica because you know during that time you have torn those microfibers in the muscle. You're going to have little bits of bruising in there and you're going to ache the next day. So if you take arnica, that is going to be less. So we fix the bruise as it happens. Contact sports. We are a rugby playing nation. I know footballers and soccer players make a big fuss when they fall over and they hold their shin and everybody stops and it's drama. But rugby players really do take each other out. And it's a full contact sport. Arnica should always be in your kit bag. If you're playing rugby, if you have someone in the family that plays rugby, arnica. Karate, aikido, taekwondo, etc. Full contact sport. Taking arnica after will definitely help any bruises that you might have had. Then, when you're in a car accident, you tense up because you're frightened, and then there's an impact. And that tense and then an impact very often causes bruising. You may not have a bruise on your body, but there's micro bruising and you feel tight and stiff the next day. Take some arnica as soon as you can. And rescue remedy, definitely rescue. Then, where can you find this stuff? Arnica D6 is available in tablet form. It says on the bottle, bruises, stiff, aching muscles, definitely. And there's Arnica Plus gel that you can use after sports injuries. And it's very nice to put on aching muscles that you've overdone it. Then Bryonia. Bryonia elbow is a big remedy. It's used for all sorts of things. We might have mentioned it in the cough section if we've done coughs. It's very commonly used for dry coughs. But in this context, it is for a form of arthritis where there is a worsening of pain and discomfort when they move. They don't want to move. They want to be absolutely still. They're kind of grumpy. They're a little bit moody. And they are antisocial. They want to be absolutely still. And the more still they are with this arthritis, the better they feel. They don't want to move at all. Social interaction requires movement. They don't want people around. They want to be all by themselves. Just leave me alone. They want to be completely still. As long as they rest in a still position, the pain is better. They also have a craving for fluids. They're very thirsty, but they're thirsty specifically for warm fluids. It doesn't matter what the fluid is. They feel much better with warm fluids. The pain in their joints feels better when they drink warm fluids. It can be tea, it can be coffee, it can be green tea. It doesn't matter what it is. It's warm fluid. And it's very much a sense of dryness. Dry, cracking feelings in the joints, as if the joint tissues are desiccated and dry, and they want to keep absolutely still because there's this creaking feeling in the joints. Now, Bryonia is very nice for arthritis, and it's in our acute joint pain and inflammation remedy called Ruma 1, localized inflammation and aching joints. Ledum palustra. Ledum is it's a very pretty flower. It's a European flower. It's often used for bites and stings, so it's in first aid remedies, but it is also for a very specific type of joint pain where the joint pain rises from the periphery. So it starts in the hands and then in the elbows and then in the shoulder. And it starts in the ankles and then in the knees and then in the hips. It's a sense of it's coming closer towards the middle. It's a rising inflammation and an aggravation ascending. It's going worse upwards towards the head and the heart. It's very specifically joint pain of any sort, sprains, strains, arthritis, etc., that is worse with application of cold. This is an unusual thing about Ledum, is that it's worse with cold applications. It's not the normal, but it does happen, where the pain is much better with the application of cold. And it's a very specific remedy for repeated ankle sprains. So it's very nice for ankle sprains in general, but it's very, very useful for those people who keep spraining an ankle again and again and again and again. A friend of mine, when I was a teenager, she was doing ballet and she went on point and she sprained her ankle and she sprained another one and the other one. Her feet were the wrong shape for point shoes. And she just kept spraining those ankles again and again. And Leadham would have been a very good choice for her. Where can you find this? Again, it's a joint remedy, inflammation, discomfort. It's in Rheuma 1. Then Rhus toxicodendron is for classic arthritis. So all those symptoms that the general public know about arthritis, that it is stiff when you wake up in the morning. It's worse when the weather is cold. The little old granny that goes, oh, my aching knees, I know the weather's going to get bad. Or that caricature of a little old person sitting in a cottage in Scotland, knowing that the winter's coming, sitting by the fire, needing to be warm. Arthritis, classic rheumatoid arthritis. Usually it starts in the small joints. It's usually bilateral, and it's much better when they move a little bit all the time. They're restless with pain. Rhus tox patients are very restless. They feel like they keep fidgeting and they keep moving and they can't seem to find a comfortable position to sit in, and they make you restless just watching them. They're really restless, and they are much worse when they first wake up in the morning. From being still all night, they are stiff and tight in the morning, and as they get moving, they get more limber and they sort of loosen up and they feel much better. The same thing will happen if they sit still for long periods of time. They'll stiffen up, and then when they start, get off the chair, and then they kind of move a little bit, and okay, then they feel much better and they keep moving. They are also arthritis that is worse with overdoing it, and joints pain and joint strain from overdoing it. Repetitive strain injury, arthritis or joint pain, Rhus tox. And also if you take a couple of anti-inflammatories and you just keep going and you work through it, and the next day you are much, much worse because you really shouldn't have hidden the pain behind some pills and kept going. That is Rhus tox. Very classic arthritis picture, and it is very useful. And we use this remedy extensively. There's little old people, oh, my knees, the rain is coming. That's arthritis. If they keep moving, slow, gentle movement, knitting, especially for the hands, walking, just gentle exercises, gentle movement, then they maintain the movement in the joints and that stiffness doesn't attack them. Much better for warm applications, much warm. And yeah, you can find Rhus tox in Rheuma 1. It's a very useful remedy to have. Then Ruta graveolens, which is the common rue. That's saying rue the day, you will rue the day. Well, that's where this comes from. It's this plant, the common rue or rutagrave. It is specifically for soft tissue injuries. This is not a remedy for joint tissue. This is for soft tissue injuries. This is for tendinitis. This is for ligament strains and sprains, lower back problems from damage that you've done to the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, but not so much the joints. This is a ligament, tendon, soft tissue, fascia band kind of remedy. And sciatic nerve, sciatic pain, that kind of deep achiness, that is rutagrave. And you can find Ruta in Rheuma Plus ointment, which is a rub. This also contains all sorts of lovely things for achy muscles and achy joints that are of long standing. The Arnica Plus ointment would be after over exercising, and the Rheuma is if you got anything that I can just rub on it, I just want to rub something in. This is what it was for. This complex, the Rheuma Plus ointment, is to rub onto joints for joint pain. That's the end of the remedies. I have a 5-minute introduction quickly for you guys into the mom and baby range, literally 5 minutes. And there's 2 surveys that Tracy's going to give you now. And we're going to pop those up on the screen, see what the answers are. And I understand that you will be emailed. There we go. You will be emailed a survey at the end.
Okay, guys, you can go ahead and answer.
Here we go. There wasn't a question 3. We decided not to have one. We'll send you a survey instead. So just pick an answer. Otherwise, it's not going to let you submit. Any answer is fine. Let's see what people average out at on a random poll. That'll be an interesting psychology experiment right there. If you have any questions, please don't forget that our resident homeopath is there to, our panelist is there to answer questions this evening. She is with us and she'll be able to answer questions in real time. If you have any questions at all in the next couple of weeks, please get hold of Jane at COMED, and you all have her email address, I'm certain, and you can send her any questions you have at all. There we go, in the chat box. Ta-da!
So Chiquita, that is the result. Are you happy?
I don't have results.
Can't you see it? Okay.
Yep.
So we basically, there were 42% people said once off on a Saturday. They'd like to do a tissue salt talk on a Saturday, and 58% said once a week for 4 weeks.
Okie dokes. Okay. Fantastic. Good information to have.
And then just on the second question, would you be interested in attending a workshop on the mom and baby range? 62% yes, and 38% said no.
I love no's. See, no's dead honesty. I love that. That's fantastic. Wonderful. Thanks very much. Those of you who said no to the mom and baby talk, thanks for joining us if you don't want to hear the introduction. But I'm going to do a 5-minute intro very quickly on that, and then we can say goodbye. Right, so here we go. The mom and baby range. Normally we do this talk to midwives so that they're all aware of it. There's a conference that happens regularly for midwives, and I talk to them 2 and 3 times a year, and they are very interested in the range. Obviously, it's targeted at them and their mommies. So Natura has a new mom and baby range. It has been around for about 4 years, and we are very proud of it. There has been a mom and baby range in Natura since 1967. It was always the baby pink range, the pale pink of the multicolor options, but it was in alcohol. So there was some hesitancy, especially with millennial moms, using a range for babies in alcohol. So there's a whole new range now. It's not just medicines, which I will go through none of these this evening because there's actually no time for that, but there is an entire range. Anything that can go wrong during the pregnancy and during the first 2 or 3 years of a baby's life, we have a remedy for it. We've kind of ticked all the boxes of things that happen regularly. They are color coordinated like the rest of the range. The digestive problems in green, the ear, nose and throat in blue, the female obviously for mom, stress, rescue and help you sleep, and there's an arnica D6 for babies. So it used to be in drops. It used to be in drops in about 20% alcohol, and I don't know if any of you have ever given a baby anything with alcohol. Their whole little face goes and then you feel like a bad parent. So if there was a problem already and baby was unhappy for some reason and then you gave them that, there's going to be a compounded unhappiness, and there was some reluctance with that, and I can well understand it. Now we have reinvented the dosage mechanism, and it is now in a quick dissolving melt, which you put in your mouth and it dissolves in about 9 seconds. Very, very quick, and there's no choking hazard. So when you've got a neonate and you want to dose a teeny tiny person, you actually can do a little bit of saliva and you can dissolve it between your fingertips, and in about 9 seconds it's a nice sweet paste, and you can rub it on your baby's gums and it disappears very quickly and it tastes pleasant, and you are still the nice mom and the baby doesn't think you are evil. Then the cosmetic range, we have a fabulous cosmetic range. I'm very proud of this range. There's Snappy Nappy, which is it's a really nice bum cream. There is a baby wash, there's a massage therapy, lovely oil, there's Napella, yay, and there's a fantastic product for stretch marks. It is EcoCert, it is all locally sourced, it is organic, and using natural ingredients. What's most important for me is that it has no fragrance. There is no interfering rose scented, lavender scented, blah, blah, that is going to interfere with the smell of mom. And mom and baby can bond because there's no perfume in the way. That's very important. When I used to babysit, I used to demand a big t-shirt that mom had been sleeping in for some time. I didn't care if it smelled of sour milk, etc. It had to smell like mom. And then baby relaxes because this interloper who's going to look after the baby for the evening smells like the parent. Very important for bonding. Very often when people are pregnant something goes wrong, whatever goes wrong during your pregnancy, you go up to the pharmacist and they go, sorry, there's nothing I can do. That's not actually true anymore. Yes. Colds and flu, definitely. Colic, yes, people, there's help for that. Snuffles, oh, definitely. And teething and constipation, breastfeeding, it's not always the joy that everyone thinks it is, etc., etc., etc. There is a large, extensive range and very good cosmetics. If you're interested, obviously social media, there will be posts, etc., about how to find the talks on this. But if you have any questions immediately, please let Jane know, and she will be able to pass your question on. Thank you very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed our evenings together, and I hope you have gained some kind of insight into how your body works, and at least found one remedy that you feel would be of benefit to you in your life going forward. But thank you so much for joining us. And those of you who are watching the video, I hope you're enjoying it, and you should join us live next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so, so much, Chiquita. That's absolutely amazing. And yes, we're 8 episodes down, and that was, as I call it, season 1 of Homeopathy for the Home Talks with Natura. Thank you so much for doing the talks for us, Chiquita. You're fabulous, and we love your knowledge of homeopathy as a whole. And like Chiquita said, I'm sure you all learned a lot about the concepts of homeopathy and some beautiful, beautiful remedies that go with it. So what will happen next is I will be contacting you in the next couple of weeks. I will let you know about any new upcoming talks, any recordings that we do. And like Chiquita has spoken about in the past, there'll be some tissue salts talks. There'll be some mom and baby talks as well. And we'll let you know about all of those. So thank you for joining us on this journey. It's a big learning for all of us. And we thank you for being part of it.